Welcome everyone to another best of 3 cast this time around. This is from the North American Open Cup that happened recently. In the top right, it is System Gaming's MaxPax. In the bottom left, we do have System Gaming's GuMiHo, but I think he actually left System, so I don't know why he still has the clan tag. I might have missed an announcement where he came kind of crawling back to System, or he's a pro gamer and doesn't really play on this account very much. Which is probably likely. So I think MaxPax is actually the only one on Psystorm. Not super important, but I think we all appreciate Psystorm continuing to pick up all of these awesome players. They picked up GuMiHo years ago, right before he became a GSL champion, actually. No one expected that, so they just got... They kind of swooped in there and got him at the right time. They had True for a while as well before he became a champion. And MaxPax has been a bit more in development. He has not yet won a championship, so there's that. But then also, the timing when they picked up True and the time when they picked up GuMiHo was like 6 months later they won tournaments. So it was crazy fast. For MaxPax, he's been on this for a while. And I guess just happy with what's happening here. But it's pretty cool that they're still in StarCraft too. Cyber's been around for the entire time, maybe? Maybe since 2012? Maybe? I think since 2012, 2013. Anywho, TVP between these two. So they are going to be playing each other cross-server. No one's favored really here. Korea to Europe. They play on Central or East. I'm not sure which one. Central or West, actually. Sorry, East is never used. So Central or West. And they're probably flipping back and forth. So anyways, keep that in mind as we watch some of the micro battles happen. But we do have 2 very unique players for their races. MaxPax, you probably heard it all before. When it comes to PvT, he does love his 4-gate and his DT rush, but can play some decent PvT otherwise. For GuMiHo, you might have not have seen him for a while, just because he wasn't at Katowice. Wait, was he? I didn't cast him at Katowice. And he just doesn't win, tournaments, but he is pretty active in these open cups. And we know him as a very unique player. A little less so in this matchup, I would say. I think his uniqueness really stands out in TVZ. But he does still have this very unique brain and occasionally comes out with very unique builds. Not so crazy as to try mech versus Protoss, maybe every once in a while. But if you want to see some high-level mech versus Protoss, your best bet is still probably Uthermal. Especially now that he's a content creator and not a true pro. Reaper was able to scout the opener as a Stargate, which is unique for MaxPax. He probably does a Stargates 30% of the time. And then 45% of it is 4-gate, and whatever's left over is DT rush. So it's, like I said, it's not totally unlikely that it's going to do this, but it is a bit rarer. It is going to be right into a Phoenix. If I were to guess what type of Phoenix player MaxPax would be, just from scouting the Stargate and the Phoenix, I would immediately go to thinking Charge. And you might say, well, these is a European versus a Korean. How much are they really playing at each other? How much do they really know each other? At this point, probably a lot. Because MaxPax has been a fan of StarCraft for a while as a youngin', and he's still a youngin'. So he probably watched GuMiHo at least somewhat. GuMiHo would have known the name MaxPax because he really has made quite a name for himself internationally. And then on top of that, they do play very commonly versus each other in these cross-server open cups. So they're probably very familiar with each other's style. So the Adept pressure from MaxPax not doing a whole lot. In fact, already being denied with 2 Adepts. It probably isn't super worth it to go into a 3rd one and try and do anything, which he didn't anyways. Went to a Stalker. The Adept pressure scouted, obviously, the Marine count and a Cyclone. And I think earlier on, he did see that it was a factory expand, too. So I think the shield battery and defensive stance is warranted. Especially since it feels like more Terran players are doing some basically just lulls, so random push-outs. Since Terran is a little bit more designated as the person who has to, do something different. They have to be doing something, right? It's a dynamic that's coming and going, especially with Protosses like MaxPax, who are very eager to control early games and mid games. But yeah, usually the Terran's the one that feels like they need to change things up. So this is a bit committed. It's got a medevac. It's got some SCVs with it. MaxPax very possibly having recently played against such a build from GuMiHo. Seems to have really gotten in tune with what was happening pretty quickly. Now, that might not mean he's actually prepared, but he got a shield battery, he got a robo, he's trying to pop out an immortal. Consistent Phoenix production. There's not really much more he could have done, but this still looks pretty tight. Immortal does pop out. Shield battery number 2 actually finishes in the nick of time. Still something that can be overcharged as well. And the Phoenix go after the tanks. Not enough Marines to really stop them from lifting up those tanks, which is the real firepower. And the Marines definitely aren't taking down an Immortal that's powered up by an overcharged shield battery. But if it's not powered down, jeez, then yeah, the Immortal will go down. Grab the tank, though, at the last second, and that was the most important thing there. The MaxPax realizing that they didn't really completely stop it. You know, that was a trade, and that keeps you alive, and you wipe some sweat off your brow, but then you go right back into being in emergency mode. So I think the second shield battery is more than warranted. Overcharge won't be available for a while. Little supply block just with everything that's going on here. But GuMiHo also has to be very careful with how he reads the situation. Yeah, he might be able to continue containing MaxPax, but the Phoenix number is still back up there. 2 died, but they're already back up at 5, and they're all healthy now. An Immortal must have popped out by now, and that second shield battery could have been on the way before we had anything to do, right? So yeah, I think GuMiHo chose the right time to pull back. MaxPax noticed he pulled back, so he canceled a second shield battery. He was already preparing for his third base, so just gets that going. And these two are reading each other pretty well. In fact, after everything is said and done, it does seem to be a bit of a wash. MaxPax ahead by an appropriate number of workers for the matchup. Not going to lose too many to this Viking. Gonna be a little less now, actually. Yeah, he is a little less ahead on the workers than he should be. But it's also third base, not quite done. And then GuMiHo is significantly delayed on stim and combat shields. Crazy late on those upgrades because he did not want to stop pumping units out of his factory in Starport. So he got a third CC quicker. He could have gotten 2 extra barracks quicker. But he went third CC into just all of the barracks coming down at once. So 4 barracks at once, giving a total of 5. But these are the barracks that are going to add on stim and combat shields. And they're not even done. GuMiHo has played some crazy games without stim. But this should be a very difficult position for the Terran. Because they just have no pressure. They have no pressure. Their armies aren't really all that great. Even when it's on the defense. MaxPax might not be as ahead in economy as much as a Protoss would want to be, but he's got much better tools at his disposal. Insert meme about tools in Protoss. Remember that one? Does that still check out, guys? The Phoenix are going to be controlling everything that GuMiHo does, constantly scouting, always looking for harassment. The Colossus can't beat the tank count, but the tanks can't really like beat the Colossus, kind of, right? Like they can stay still and they can say you can't come any closer, Colossus, but they can't go after the Colossus. So MaxPax just again has so much of a better grasp on this game. GuMiHo stim and combat shields only just now starting. Thank you, Patch Tech, for the 18 months. So yeah, MaxPax should be able to thrive here, even if GuMiHo's economy worker-wise has always been good versus Protoss. He's also been mining off of 2 bases this entire time. So, you know, for a little while, yeah, okay, there was a pretty even huge spike there, all the mules dropping as well, but it's, I mean, now it's not over enough mineral patches. So 58's not really working as much as you would hope. MaxPax's gonna go on a 4th base. I think could have gotten away with double forge, honestly, but only on 1 forge, so should have a little more room for maybe a Fast Temple Archives, and that's exactly what he's getting. 3 Colossus in total. His other one is coming across the map. It is nothing to fear after all, since GuMiHo definitely didn't have stim and combat shields, and those Phoenix were scouting that. The Phoenix could literally see that there was no tech lab on the barracks. Command Center had really high hopes. Tell you what. Obviously has to lift, but without a lot of anti-air, it's not like it was going to get super punished, I suppose. And GuMiHo will finally complete those necessary upgrades to make a Terran army. But having established no contacts in the mid-game, aside from a couple of probe kills, I don't know what that was that time around, as, you know, kind of theoretically lost the best part of Terran which is the mid game. But he was pumping away consistently on this production. Has a decent army. It now has its upgrade, so if it didn't die before its upgrades, all's fair. And even has 1-1. So he was greedy where he could be while he bought time. But again, MaxPax should have such a solid setup. You know, he's got the Zealots in the main base. He's actually going to go for the kill here. I might be a little overeager, to be honest. Just because the tanks are positioned. The Marauder count is, you know, decent. It's something. Medevac count is pretty low, so maybe it was also looking to abuse that. But mostly looking for the Wombo combo. Zealots in the main, attack on the third base, hoping that somewhere GuMiHo would mess up drastically. And GuMiHo didn't really mess up all that bad. A couple of SCVs were lost, not even that many. That was a decent amount of Zealots that were committed, and they all died. So MaxPax, he didn't actually get what he wanted from that. But still, he is on 4 bases. He's finally on his own double forge. He's got all the technology that he wants, going up to disruptors at this point. Still has the Warp Prison to be a threat, and still has the presence on the map that GuMiHo has not had since his first tank push. I think it's clear that GuMiHo is just hoping to be able to max out with Viking Ghost Bio tank heavily upgraded, and then maybe win one of the final battles, which, when you do become maxed out, kind of makes everything fair again. Maxed out with relatively even upgrades anyways. The difference may be how much bank they have, or how many command centers they have, or... well, yeah, that's kind of it, you know. Maybe the technology they have. But the point is, you maxed out versus maxed out. Anything can happen with that execution. And that is what we are waiting on. A battle to happen in MaxPax to execute properly. GuMiHo looking for those EMPs first, then the engagement. He did not go into Viking, so I was wrong about that. So the 3 Colossus will... I mean, I guess with the number of Phoenix still alive, you might be thinking they're not going to be super useful anyways. But then he's definitely going to need those EMPs and a really good concave. And the tanks helping out as well, if the Phoenix don't end up picking them up. SCV's going down to the main base is once again MaxPax using the same trick twice in a row, but this time around disruptors are included. Only one of them really getting a good shot, however, and those Archons more vulnerable than they appear, since EMPs are actually outs. But once again, decent cleanup on the first Zealot wave. Second one's coming in. MaxPax not going to let up on the front lines anytime soon, and those tanks are now looking quite vulnerable. No charge lots, though, as there wasn't any quick reinforcement. The Warp Prism was being used offensively, harassment-based. So, yeah, the Phoenix had to stay around a lot longer than they would have liked to take care of the tanks. Many of them losing their lives. Disruptors unable to retreat fast enough. GuMiHo, once again, taking a decent defensive fight. And he is trying to get his 4th base up. And had lifted over to the left side prior to all that, or during all that, really. Thank you, Livrisa, for that raid. MaxPax going up to 5th base, has plenty of spotting pylons, moving on to 3-2 as GuMiHo at least started his +3 attack as soon as possible. GuMiHo finally feeling confident enough to actually move on the map with some certain groups of units anyways. A pretty sizable group of army, in fact. Might leave his home base a little bit vulnerable, something that MaxPax might be looking to take into account. Zealots on top of the not yet planetary, and of course, now we're moving into that Dark Shrine. A little surprised MaxPax didn't do it sooner, but I think he was spending his resources very appropriately. I was hoping that maybe those 1-2 hits on GuMiHo's main and third would be more effective. In fact, so effective they might have won the game, but they haven't. GuMiHo continues to hold on, which has really been the story of this game since this tank push. Just hold on and hope you don't die. So far, so good. Disruptor count up at 4. That's not too terrible. +3 attacks about to finish for GuMiHo, so this would be a bit of an anti-timing for the Protoss if they actually decide to go into this. This looks like a good opportunity, but the planetary is going to hold up a while longer. The left side army does successfully retreat, and the right side army wanted to come in for that concave. MaxPax, wary of it, pulls back to the choke, but is quickly running out of those important disruptors. Really the most important thing in his army. Otherwise, his army does not stand a chance against the leftovers of GuMiHo. So many Marauders able to tank the Colossus shots. It's all down to the disruptors, which are going to buy that time, buy some splits, and MaxPax is not done yet. Zealots once again into that natural, finally killing that last tank. Zealots on the reinforcement helping once again those Colossus, which have not died at all in this game. They've been here from the get-go. But you have to be so careful. All it takes is running out of disruptor shots, and all of these Marauders, healed up by the amount of medevacs that GuMiHo has, will take down everything that MaxPax has. So MaxPax, he is playing a dangerous game. He's walking that tightrope, but he's pretty darn good at it. And he's doing it while continuing to expand. Another base is coming up, this time a gold base. Upgrades finishing up for him as well to even things out a little bit. And Dark Shrine with DT Blink will be a new, very, very real threat to GuMiHo's economy. GuMiHo is trying to split up his army once again. You know, he tried for like half a second, and then he had to retreat. Now he finally is getting the other side of the map. Some damage is being done to MaxPax's economy. Still not a whole lot. This army just sacrificial. No medevacs to even transport it to the main base, so really not going to look so hot over there. And this army just not big enough to take on the army of MaxPax. GuMiHo is in a decent amount of trouble. 56 SCVs across 4 bases. Not giving him enough cash to max out. He is struggling to afford the barracks production. SCVs, in fact, many of them not mining. Medevacs only part of one army, not the other. Well, no, they're part of both, but now we're just watching a relatively small army. I guess it's still evenish on the army supply, and the concave would help of GuMiHo a lot, but it still couldn't collapse in as much as it was hoping for. And the Zealots coming in might just be the nail in the coffin. Archons as well, a couple of Disruptors still available, and don't forget MaxPax has taken really no damage behind this. So even as he does lose this army, this is GuMiHo's last attempt. If he can win right here, right now, more power to him. But can he actually defeat MaxPax with this army? All of his bases, all of his production? Probably not. And that planetary that was holding on to his economy is now getting killed by those DTs. Who would have seen that coming? Crazy. Of course, that was an open opportunity after MaxPax had so much time to build up a bank, build up a gateway count, and just knew that he would be able to survive to make those DTs. And he was absolutely right about that. I think GuMiHo, you know, sees a chance again anytime that you can take that one Hail Mary engagement versus the Protoss. You know, you get all excited. You get all wiggly jiggly. You're like, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. There's so much Protoss to kill at this point. MaxPax could sacrifice a lot of things before he had to admit defeat. Stellar Rumbai's not looking super effective. And MaxPax did just lose a bunch of probes and a Nexus, but you know, he has so many, it doesn't really matter. DT's still not actually taken care of. Gonna try and, oh, recall. I thought they were gonna try and blink somewhere, and I was like, oh, they're trying to recall. Most of them escape. Quickly remaking the DTs to the number, I guess, which maybe 2 shots planetaries? I'm actually not sure if he's choosing a specific number, but he is spending what little gas he has in those DTs. And that is a bit of a sore point for MaxPax. Very comfortable on the mineral count, but the gas, a little less so. A lot of his gases from earlier on starting to get mined out, perhaps, and not taking the additional ones, or just frankly building a lot of DT gas-expensive units, and that is Protoss for you. GuMiHo is just not willing to give up, and he does have an army supply lead, so again, hoping for that one perfect engagement, which is absolutely possible against this Protoss composition. The Disruptor actually just took out most of the Zealots, in fact, and hey, suddenly the supplies very, very even. MaxPax is in trouble. He needs to start reinforcing elsewhere because this army is not going to stand up. No Disruptor shots available. Disruptors trying to be rebuilt, but one from the third base. GuMiHo, he was hoping for this his entire game. This was his last chance to win this game, is to take one good engagement, and he finally found it. He's stimming like hell. He's running low on that medevac energy, but he is taking out the robos. This one still alive and running, but only one Disruptor. Nothing on the high ground to stop him. DT's now being warped in just to get a couple of extra swipes. Maybe GuMiHo's running out of scans, which is very possible, as he has lifted some of his orbitals into the main base. GuMiHo goes, trying to get on top of that production, but now getting surrounded by Zealots and DTs with some good upgrades, trying to find a choke to abuse the hell out of this bio army and an EMP on the Zealots, but the Disruptor also comes in, takes down a chunk of GuMiHo's army, and GuMiHo will not win with this last push, but he made it as exciting as possible. GG. MaxPax wins game number 1. Game number 2 is going to be on Neo-Humanity in the bottom. That's top. In the top left, we have MaxPax. In the bottom, it is GuMiHo, who was in a tough spot that entire game. It might seem like he recovered because the supplies weren't that different. The effectiveness of the economy was pretty similar, I guess is how you would put it. Like they both got an economy that allowed them to get maxed out at least once. The MaxPax obviously had more bases to give up, more probes to give up, and more bank to give up before he really had to panic. But certainly make no mistake, if a Terran is really just that turtley, they are kind of missing out on some of the important moments of the Terran versus Protoss dynamic. So GuMiHo, I mean, he just identified what he needed to do to survive. And he did. And then he identified what he needed to do to almost take a victory. And he did everything he could. But MaxPax, I think, in turn, was very aware of all of the problems that could still arise. So it's not that MaxPax ever was so far ahead, lol, how could he throw this game, necessarily. It was just more like, MaxPax is ahead, he should know what to do from here, and if he executes it well, there's not supposed to be a chance for GuMiHo to really come back. But executing well in StarCraft is always difficult, especially when your opponent is also very good and forces all the mistakes from you. And the Protoss army does get to be in a bit of a vulnerable situation eventually. Their biggest and best army is almost their most vulnerable as well, which is the Stalker Disruptor emphasis. If it does get surrounded, if the Disruptors do get sniped, then they can be in a lot of trouble. So it's definitely the army you want to eventually get to as the Protoss, but it's got its downsides. So there's, I think, a lot of high-level play from both players after a kind of hard to read early game. GuMiHo wanted to do more damage so that he could say 100% I'm ahead, and then MaxPax wanted to clear that up a lot better and more completely to say, okay, I'm really ahead, and they didn't. So it was kind of a, hold on, what's going on? And then they just kind of read it the rest of the game very well. Where's all the color from the cat? You know, he used to have some gray spots, and they all disappeared when he grew up. He's got like 5 gray hairs. Wouldn't it be better just to sync on adepts? I see what you're saying. Zealots and disruptors can be counterintuitive. And disruptors blow up the zealots. Boom. However, adepts really aren't that great versus Terran. I mean, they're really not that great at all in the mid game. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Let's check what's happening in this game for a second. He did see the CC on the high ground, so he knows what build this was. He is still going to commit a little bit to his early aggression. Really likes doing this zealot stuff. GuMiHo probably knows it, and that's one of the reasons he went for high ground command center. And this is just, well, this is just unnecessarily fancy. This is unnecessarily annoying. This is MaxPax, though. He just got the Reaper of his opponent. Is looking for the Marine. Oh, he gets him, but the Marines pop out aggressively, which MaxPax wasn't expecting, because then they're in range of the Zealot. And then their Stalker comes forward, kind of in a beautiful moment. GuMiHo is losing some more SCVs than you would ever expect to when you do the high ground command center, but the Cyclone comes out as well, and MaxPax did not get that timing necessarily correct. I mean, they both thought they had maybe some more time on some certain engagements there, but eventually Factory does rule the early game. So MaxPax is going to go unscouted. It's going to remain unscouted thanks to that Reaper kill. The Twilight Council coming down, building up that blink. Do we have 4 gateways? It's MaxPax. Of course we do. Of course we do. And GuMiHo should be anticipating that as well. So already building tanks. That's a no-brainer. Is this map really the best for a 4-gate? Actually, really no. 2 reasons for that. One, I don't know, the blink up isn't really all that terrifying. You know, it's a limited space in which the blink can happen, so it's not like you don't know if they're coming up from over here or from over here, like some other bigger main bases do. Oh my god, GuMiHo's pushing. But to finish my point, you also can't abuse going into here and then immediately going into the natural like you can on some other bases. So those are 2 reasons why it's not really seen a whole lot. I thought GuMiHo was being aggressive, which I thought was crazy, because he really doesn't know what he's walking into. He just saw no 3rd base, which gives him a sign that it's not a fast expand, but yeah, he actually sieges his tank on the high ground, which I love. So think this comes down to them just knowing each other so well, because the Cyclone is also in position to grab the Warp Prism. Scan takes it down, and that just takes the wind out of the sails of a 4-gate. That is a huge delay with absolutely no return. GuMiHo saved his Cyclone and his tanks. So, forget about it. Had GuMiHo just la-di-da'd his way across the map, it's very different. Then the Stalkers are probably much better, right? They go, oh shit, an army's over here, and then they start to micro. But having them sieged up like that with the Cyclone lock-on, that was a beautiful sequence of events. Don't try it at home. And don't try this at home either. GuMiHo going aggressive against the 4-gate is still a bit questionable. The Stalkers, you know, could have found this army while it was unsieged, picking away in the Marines, forcing stims. But the Stalkers really wanted to get the 4-gate offensively going. That is the point of a 4-gate. So they have been kind of blindsided. They're forced to cancel the Nexus. This blink on top of the tanks is punished thanks to stim already being done. So the Marines take down quite a few Stalkers and keep the Stalkers over here. So it is not like MaxPax immediately counterattacks and gets GuMiHo while his tank count has been reduced. GuMiHo's going to have a second tank probably by the time the Stalkers make it across the way. They'll have it done by the time the Warp Prism makes it across. And then going back to earlier, this isn't the most abusive map for Blink Stalkers. I think this is one of the more dangerous ways you would try and do a counter to a 4-gate. But considering how often MaxPax is allowed, because of the nature of the builds, to just be the bigger bully, once the Terran realizes they're being 4-gated, they have to be very scared and they have to be back at home defending. GuMiHo just basically bet that he could flip that and be in his face, and MaxPax was terribly unprepared for it. So he still got to do the 4-gate, especially, you know, if he didn't have to cancel his third, I don't think that GuMiHo push out was as good. The one that ended here. But it did cancel the Nexus. So MaxPax is still not on 3 bases, where GuMiHo is going to match his 3 bases by the looks of it. Plus, just have a very strong army since he has been able to get to Bio with Stim, Combat Shields, and Medivacs. The 4-gate did not hit, really, anytime before that. So MaxPax is in a pickle. He has gotten himself out of pickles many times before, though. His Warp Prism usage, the most annoying possibly. His Stalker micro, considered some of the best by the players that he actually faces. This isn't just me hyping up the foreigner. And I think his read into what exactly to do as far as the expanding versus the teching versus the probing, you know, I think it is very good. But even he struggles to win after an effectively failed 4-gate. Pickle does sound really good after I said that. Yeah, I agree. A couple of Vikings popped out. It's a choice by the Terran. You know, they delay their 4 medevac. Best number for medevac, right? But now the 2 Vikings could maybe split off, cover the Warp Prisms for later. Or if he knew MaxPax was likely to go in a storm after this, which 50-50, honestly. He sometimes does, sometimes doesn't. Then he could keep those Vikings to just terrorize the Warp Prism that's flying around with the High Templars. It is a very effective thing to do if you ever struggle against High Templar Warp Prism users that are good with it. Most people aren't good with it. So I think that's what GuMiHo's already planning, just because, again, they probably know each other so much. One Viking gets destroyed at the very least. MaxPax eager to get whatever he can to make up for the early game. But one Viking's not that impressive. GuMiHo is on 3 bases, saturated, totally focused on this push. MaxPax is the one quaking in his boots. Not sure if he can actually hold against this. No EMPs to counter his Storm, but that's a chunky Terran army. It's got plenty of Marauders that will live through at least one Storm, and the tanks don't really care. Storm is done, but he's waiting for the ideal moment. There it is. Or maybe he was waiting for that Templar energy. Finally slaps down 1, is looking for a second, but also has to be careful of the tank range. Can't let his High Templars die trying to get a Storm. So this is a very difficult situation for MaxPax. If he had Storm while GuMiHo's army was in transit, that would have been the best case scenario, but I guess he did not. Now he's just going to try and go for the break. Storms are coming down, but not super effective. And the tanks do not get destroyed by the Zealots, which really is what's supposed to happen right there. The tanks get left alone, so the Zealots take care of them. The bio is so split that they're also getting surrounded partially by the Zealots. They come back together, but then hopefully you have another Storm in your pocket, you have an Archon, you have a shield battery, anything like that. And that didn't happen. MaxPax needed the absolute best engagement possible to even have a chance in this game, and GuMiHo denied him that chance. So GG, all tied up now. So the last game of this best of 3 on Babylon. Top left, it is MaxPax. Bottom right, it is GuMiHo. MaxPax expecting to be the leader of the last game, expecting to be the one in charge, forcing the Terran to defend. Gets got. It's like when you watch those videos of the high school bully beating up on a kid who looks like it's you know, he's gonna get destroyed, and then the guy that's getting bullied is actually a black belt and just does some cool little karate move against the bully. That's what that was. GuMiHo was taking a risk, though. It's absolutely taking a risk. If his army didn't catch the army of MaxPax exactly like it did, it might have been punished. Like, even if the War Prism lived, it's already more doable for MaxPax. But it was the combination of the Stalkers running face first into the tank and the War Prism getting locked on. It really made it so brutal. So I wouldn't say that MaxPax gets deterred from doing a 4-gate from that. In fact, I don't think MaxPax has ever in his life thought, well, now that means I can't do a 4-gate. Because even if he faces someone who manages to defend very well the way they're supposed to, everything's lined up nice and tight, and the Terran just doesn't take that much damage from him, he still doesn't really take that as a sign to stop. So someone doing a bit of a risky gamble there is not going to stop him either. So this very well could still be a 4-gate. Probably a better map for it. Kind of the same problem, not like a huge amount of space to jump up, but it's still enough. Not a direct access into the natural, but it's better. Another high ground command center from GuMiHo too. I mean, the Marine pushes away the probe so it can't see the command center not going down on location. So that's the only thing that MaxPax knows, is that the command center is not down yet to his knowledge. But you do see the lack of second supply depot, and you do see the lack of second gas. So assuming that MaxPax really knows his timings and he's pulling his probe away when those things would usually be put down, he should still know that it's a 1-Rax expand. This is from the Open Cup North America. So Stargate's on the way for MaxPax, so definitely not a 4-gate. GuMiHo should be feeling more comfortable against this. I mean, MaxPax's 4-gate is probably the scariest thing that he has. That's why he does it so often. But it's not uncounterable or always getting him victories. But 2 Stargate builds and a best of 3 from MaxPax? Oh! Oh! He's so eager to go into Twilight Council. So often. GuMiHo, still having not gotten his command center down. Certainly going to take a whole lot of harassment, and the high ground is an advantage. But if MaxPax was uncertain about the build, the amount of units kind of was a bit of a reveal. And the Adepts will eventually find 100%, hey, that was a command center. MaxPax going to the Phoenix, might be going into the Phoenix Charge. Like I said, he would probably be more likely to go into the first game. The first game, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But in the first game, he did have to respond to a potential attack. So this actually still might be the exact same case, because it's a very similar build coming out for GuMiHo. Cyclone, Medevac, and Tank on the way. So I think that's once again why he's going into this. But it also could be that he was totally planning on playing into Phoenix Colossus as well. I think that's something he absolutely can do. But this set him up decently well to deal with the push. It was a little complicated. There was some potential for other things. This is not exactly the same push, as the tank is left at home and the Marines are carrying it around in that medevac. So MaxPax, now it's going to go into Colossus. Did respect, I think, the idea of a push. Shield battery is up, but if GuMiHo does do a push, which maybe he still does, Feels like it's going to be a little bit later, right? But then maybe he's convinced MaxPax he's not doing this. But the Phoenix are going to fly over a tank coming over, so that's pretty revealing. So if MaxPax was hoping, waiting, kind of hovering over the Immortal button up until that point, that makes sense that he then starts up the Immortal. But at this point in time, GuMiHo does kind of get to pull MaxPax's strings a little bit. GuMiHo doesn't have to do anything. But if his little push out there forced MaxPax to be a little less greedy, then more power to him. I wouldn't say it's really all that greedy of a Protoss, however, to go for the set of units that MaxPax has. Or rather, I don't think it's very punishing that MaxPax has had to go for the set of units that he has. It's pretty common with a Robo Opener to get into a safety Immortal. And now, the will he, won't he question is kind of over. The Phoenix get to take control of the map, and GuMiHo is just preparing his 2 bases. So MaxPax gets to his 3rd. He is going into those Colossus, something that GuMiHo doesn't actually know yet. He has yet to scout MaxPax at all. This Raven will be the first thing. Well, this push out is happening before Sim and Combat Shields. It's a bit of a random push. Phoenix gonna fly over it accidentally. Fortunately, it's not Stim, but unfortunately, that weakened Phoenix got the lock on. GuMiHo's Raven manages to distract to a certain extent to allow the army to come across the map, and it kills 5 workers, but it dies in the process. But the army coming across the map and sieging up on MaxPax's 3rd was the most important thing here. Now with the tank sieged up, maybe the Marines aren't as powerful as they could be, but you can see that MaxPax did not get to buy any time, did not get to pick off any units, and well, now has his Colossus. It is away from the shield battery, so that was just a kind of a split the middle shield battery. 10 probes also go down because the Raven didn't die. Oh my god, I just assumed it did. Oh. Huh. And now more probes are going down. I mean, if the probes don't go down and he holds like that, that's fair, but with probes also falling, 14 of them, GuMiHo has done the damage necessary. You're gonna stall out, extend Thermal Lance? Nope, just kidding. Just get that 1 pylon and get out. But MaxPax lost 14 probes there. And he really could have not lost as many army units, too. The shield battery, I was talking about splitting the difference. I think he was looking to defend possibly this location. So he could back away that way, back away that way. And then, yeah, didn't have the shield battery when it came to engaging on this ramp. So that was a bit unfortunate. That was a bit unfortunate. Had he not lost the probes, that's it. He did lose the probes. Now it's very unfortunate. Now MaxPax needs to do something in return, which it's not very much looking possible. Observer's going to see a decent-sized Terran army. And MaxPax has to be very careful with this push-out. He didn't actually make any sentries to begin with, but just point out, he doesn't have any sentries for force fields. So if GuMiHo thinks he can take on this army and pounces on it, there's nothing that MaxPax can do. MaxPax chases down a medevac drop with the knowledge that this observer is giving him. It's relatively safe, but yeah, the army of GuMiHo is just scary now. So MaxPax, maybe he can be out of position because his bases aren't under attack. He can't find himself out in the open surrounded, so he needs to get back to a ramp, and that's what he did. Then kills his own unit. Nicely done. And yeah, I'm still a bit worried about the complete lack of force fields, but he is spending all the gas that he has, so it's not a mistake. He's getting the Phoenix, getting to a 4th Colossus, trying to start up that charge, getting an upgrade. Now he has the probe count back up to get these gases, which if he hadn't lost 14 probes, probably would have already been saturated. GuMiHo is not gonna be super eager to engage. He's actually gonna wait until he has some ghosts at the very least. Not gonna bother with Vikings either, which, you know, after casting so much of Europe and North America, it's not a complete split between the regions, but they were displaying a lot more Viking response to someone opening this way. At times, all Terrans were just basically saying Vikings are stupid and I hate them and they never went Vikings. But it feels like Europe and North America are definitely going Vikings against this nowadays. And I guess maybe Koreans or perhaps just GuMiHo is not. So they're looking for really good concaves and really good engagements more than a more direct punch to the face or trying to sneak the Vikings into, you know, really good terrain like over this little thingy here. So it is a bit... It wouldn't be so much of a contrast if it didn't just cast 4 days of European StarCraft in North American. So, yeah, that's pretty neat. Is the split good enough here for MaxPax? So far, so good. 2 Colossus on either side is pretty important. You know, if there was only 1 here... Ouch, Kabibbles. 1 here might have been okay. Vikings got a little bit of a buff. They got a micro buff, basically, a damage point buff, so they can scoot and shoot a little bit better. Hasn't really impacted it enough. I don't think that's the reason that other people go into Vikings. GuMiHo is finally going to go into Vikings, something he never did like in the first game, right? So that was an extended macro game against Colossus, and he didn't. But now he is deciding to go into them. Still not 2 starports, which again, the other guys were very frequently going into. War Prism going to get denied as 2 Vikings popped out so well timed and rallied perfectly, because I think the units over here saw the War Prism incoming, so that's a bummer for MaxPax. At this point, though, by the way, MaxPax, you know, early on, losing 19 probes in total, I was concerned for him, but it seems like he has survived. But GuMiHo also wasn't exactly super trying to kill him. He was moving, he was positioning, he was potentially opening up opportunities, but no opportunity was greenlit enough for him to really gun it. So, seems like GuMiHo just wanted to play this out nice and safe. 4th base up's a planetary, sensor tower down, upgrades on the way, and maxed out now. So he does still have the advantages. But especially as MaxPax saturates his 4 bases and potentially gets up to a Dark Shrine, that's when I really start to worry for any Terran in any position. MaxPax still making an A sacrifice from earlier on, possibly. Still no second forge. And basically, every time you get that +2 going, you know, ideally you want to be on a second forge, getting +1 armor too against Terran. GuMiHo is going to add on a fusion core. Looks like he's not confident enough to really end this game, which will lead me to discuss something that's being discussed in chat, but I didn't want to bring up without cause about why not Liberators. So as GuMiHo potentially throws in Liberators, if he makes it that far. Oh, no, cancel. GuMiHo's rich, so it's not the biggest of deals, but still. Liberators slow Terran down. That's really the biggest things. Liberators slow them down. So Liberators are a little bit cheaper than they used to be, but are still kind of expensive. It is a choice. You go Liberators or Vikings, unless it's very late game, and then I guess you do go both against capital ships. The Liberators slow Terran down. So it really gives the Protoss control over the game, and is often seen as a, you know, very late game or even kind of last ditch attempt for the Terran to survive, is to go into Liberators, because it's just going to turtle. It's going to be a turtle game. MaxPax taking control of the map just because he also is getting maxed out. Not because he saw GuMiHo going into Liberators, they haven't come out yet, but just because he figured he was safe enough to do so. That Zealot run by that killed the command center also opened up the space on the map. GuMiHo responded to it. GuMiHo wasn't punishing him anywhere else, so he gets on the map, and he is now going to be the one controlling the map, as the Terran army isn't really capable of defeating this one unless it finds, again, a concave, which it's the Protoss prerogative, right, to never be allowed to get concave to pond. So as long as they can always back away into the choke and use the disruptors to guard them, then they're the ones that are supposed to be doing this. Oh, that disruptor looked like it was going to get a good shot. It was just okay. This one okay as well. And this is the concave that MaxPax did not want to go into, especially after already throwing away all of his disruptors. This is what GuMiHo wanted from this game, from this battle. Oh, no. The blink of an eye, that's what can happen to the Protoss army. MaxPax over-dedicating severely. I don't know what it was, too. Maybe he didn't realize there was so much army coming in from the left side as well. But, you know, cracking a planetary when the Terran is aware of it, they're not completely elsewhere, and their entire army is here, it has so many reasons not to be done. Not only do they potentially get a concave, and this is a very concavable, large area of space for a fourth base, but also units are really dumb about planetaries. Units will shoot planetaries over a lot of other shit, unless you tell them not to. So planetaries are a real hard thing to break for multiple reasons. Their actual being, the planetary itself, the mass repair from the SCVs, and then its target priority. So Colossus will just be like, yeah, what am I doing? It's not planetary, right? No. But yeah, then just allow himself to be so deep into a very much prepared Terran. That was... Oh, that was a good disruptor shot. That killed so many ghosts. Oh, still not enough, though. GuMiHo more than eager to... He knows the position he found himself in. He knows that was a good engagement, wants to do damage, immediately went across the map, and was looking to dig into the natural a little bit, but a recall is going to scare him off, at least for now. MaxPax might just be able to recover from that error, but it's going to be a very difficult recovery. This directly impacts, for instance, his ability to go into the Dark Shrine and blink and 8 or 9 DTs. Had he not done that, he probably does it as he continues to abuse this choke. Now he's only just now finishing his Dark Shrine. Still hoping for a couple of good disruptor shots too, as GuMiHo has retaken the map. And here's what's really good about Liberators, if you are in such a position. If you can be very active, like you're ahead in the game, and you're on their side of the map, then Liberators are an excellent thing to add, because the Protoss does not have a direct answer to Liberators. The problem is that when you go into Liberators, if you're not in control of the map, if you're not ahead in the game, you have to chill. You have to siege and unsiege and siege and unsiege, and the Protoss has a lot of time to take care of that. But if you are in GuMiHo's position and you get on top of a base and you have 4 Liberators siege up, the Protoss is in trouble. I heard a nuke go down. I have no idea where. I don't know. Okay, there it is. Third base. Bunch of probes got killed. Robo's damaged. Disruptors on the reinforcement path are also getting destroyed as GuMiHo takes out the base at the top right and now has Liberators involved as well. Looking at the 4th base, licking their lips. GuMiHo could absolutely continue with the aggression. MaxPax is going to realize the game has fallen out of his hands and taps out before he takes another fight. GG. Yeah, that was a huge problem with the base here. Yeah, it's really I think he just didn't see the army over to the left or something. Or he miscounted the shots. He miscounted how many disruptors he had. Something. Man, GG. GuMiHo goes on to the finals.